Everyone, welcome. It's the 18th of March meeting of the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee. The meeting's being webcasted and the recording of the meeting will be available on CCR's website and YouTube channel as well. I'm Anthony Hunt. I'm the leader of Torvine Council and the chair of South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee. Everyone else has introduced themselves already this morning. So if I can mention Julian Steadman from the Brecon Beacons National Park. Welcome, Julian.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, good to be here.
Welcome, and apologies we're running a little bit late this morning. It's been a busy old morning. So if we can move straight to apologies for absence and any substitutions. Is there anything that needs to be noted here?
Thank you, Chair. The only apology we received was from Councillor Hugh David. And also we received apology from Councillor Arju Morgan, and we have Councillor Maureen Webber as substitute.
That's great. Anything else to mention there? If not, then we can move to agenda item 2, which is the minutes of the CJC meeting held on the 29th of January. Is everyone happy with those? Any questions? If not, then we move to agenda item 3, which is declarations of interest. Are there any interests that members need to declare this morning? Don't believe so. So that moves us swiftly on to agenda item 4, which is the constitution review and transfer of the CCR City deal to the CJC. The purpose of this report is to seek final approval for the transfer of Cardiff Capital Region City deal and associated funding programmes to the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee. I can remind members that appendices 6 and 7 of the report are exempt. So if you wish to debate those appendices in detail, then just ask and we will move the meeting to exempt session. So if I can start by inviting the Chief Executive to introduce the report.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. So very pleased to present this report on the constitution review and transfer of Cardiff Capital Region City deal. So at the last and final meeting of Cardiff Capital Region Cabinet, they noted and approved all of those things leaving or transferring across from Cardiff Capital Region City deal to the CJC. So the job of the CJC board this morning is to approve all of those things incoming effectively into the CJC. I won't cover again all of the long history surrounding this. I think I covered that at length this morning. But quite clearly, the policy position of lift and shift has been adopted now for some time. And for a long time, we've been working as an officer team towards that go live date of the 1st of April 2024. In paragraph 15, you'll see reference to the draft constitution, which we do seek approval of today. There are 6 parts to the constitution: the summary, the articles, the allocations of responsibility, the rules of procedure, codes and protocols, and of course the City deal standing orders, because that segment of City deal still transfers across for decisions now to be taken under the CJC. A copy of the constitution is set out Appendix 1, and earlier today Jane sent around a very short addendum, which I'll ask Jane to speak to in just a few minutes' time, which speaks to some of the comments and suggestions made by colleagues in Brecon Beacons National Park, which I feel look very sensible and hopefully members will agree to incorporate into the amended constitution today. We also have comments from the Joint Overview and Scrutiny Committee that took a very long look, a deep dive into the constitution about a week and a half ago. We had a 2.5-hour session. So again, those comments and the commendation of that board are also attached at Appendix 2. I won't cover in detail all of the items that I spoke to this morning on the assurance framework, the novation of income and funding agreements, fund management arrangements around our wholly owned companies, the portfolio transfer, operational contracts, and so on. Not just because I've been through them this morning, because that wouldn't be fair on Julian, but because they do pertain more to City deal. So they don't really cover the remit of the Brecon Beacons National Park in relation to the constitution. So hopefully, Julian, you'll forgive me for that, and I'm sure we can have a conversation about those different elements and how it all comes together very soon in the future. So I think that's as much as I wanted to say this morning, Chair. I think everything is hopefully pretty self-evident and self-explanatory. It was very good to be joined by the Chairman of the Joint Overview and Scrutiny Committee this morning to get their comments. And I'll hand over to Jane now to discuss that short addendum and any points that you'd like to draw out, in particular, Jane, regarding amending the Constitution for those purposes which I referenced.
Thank you, Chair. The document that's been circulated this morning makes some very minor amendments to the draft constitution that appears published with the papers. Those amendments all relate to the position of the Brecon Beacons National Park Authority. Firstly, they clarify the legislative definition of the National Park Authority's membership of the Corporate Joint Committee. And secondly, they clarify the National Park Authority's ability to nominate members to certain subcommittees. They are all as a matter of law, and I hope don't prove controversial. Finally, the Brecon Beacons National Park Authority requested that when matters of strategic development planning are being discussed, their chief executive or a suitable deputy be invited to the chief officer's group that meets regularly. Members will know that that chief officers group was a group originally established under the City Deal as part of the assurance framework. It discharges functions that are necessary for that assurance framework, and it wouldn't be expected that the Brecon Beacons member would, or the Brecon Beacons National Park Authority chief executive would participate in those discussions. But in relation to matters within the National Park Authority's remit, then that proposed recommendation is also made. Kelly?
Yeah, Chair, hopefully that covers it. I'm not sure if we're joined again by the Chair of the Joint Overview and Scrutiny Committee, but I think those comments were made earlier this morning. And on that note, Chair, I'm happy to take us through the recommendations, if that's okay, to conclude this item. So recommendation 1 is to approve...
Yeah, I can't hear the sound. That's why it's awful, isn't it?
Somebody want to switch their mic off? There we go. All right, I'll take us through the recommendations again.
We are meant to be.
Kelly, do you need to put your mic on?
Oh, is it? Okay, can you hear me? I think somebody's left their microphone on. If you could just switch off, if that's okay, while we go through the recommendations, which are at paragraph 75. So it's recommended that the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee approves the CJC's draft constitution, which is set out, as I said, at Appendix 1, delegates authority to the Chief Executive, myself, in consultation with the Interim Monitoring Officer, Jane, to agree the final form of any legal agreements and documents necessary to implement transfer of each of the funding agreements and fund management arrangements listed under levels 1 and 2 of Appendix 4, delegates authority to the Chief Executive in consultation with the Interim Monitoring Officer to agree final form of all documents necessary to implement the legal transfer of the portfolio CCR funded projects listed under level 3, approve the transfer of the operational contracts listed under level 4, and authorise the Chief Executive to enter into service level agreements listed in Appendix 4. So, Chair, I will leave it there and commend this report to you.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you, Jane. I can open it up to any questions or comments. Julian, do you want to come in first?
Yes, fine. Well, thank you very much for taking on board our comments, and particularly for Jane, who put together this little addendum so quickly over the weekend. Just be grateful for that, and just to confirm that we're now very happy to go along with the proposal as set out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions before we move to the recommendations?
Chair, I did lose connection, so I don't know if I'm eligible to vote. I lost connection for a short space of time.
Okay, I think it's only a short amount of time, so happy with that. Any questions, colleagues? Then are we happy then to move to recommendations at paragraph 75 of this report? Can I have a mover and a seconder, please?
Happy to move, Chair.
Thanks, Liz. That's Liz moving, and Sean Morgan seconding. I'll take it to a vote then. If I bring in Julian first.
Yes, happy to support, Chair.
Thanks, Julian. Jane Newport.
Support, Chair.
Thanks, Jane. Marianne Mamashe. Marianne up on the screen. If I go to Blind Gwent then, Steve.
Support, Chair.
RCT.
Yes, support, Chair.
Thanks, Maureen. And then if I go into the room then, Caerphilly.
Happy to support, Chair.
Thanks, Sean. Merthyr.
Happy to support, Chair.
Thanks, Cardiff.
Happy to support.
Thanks, Hugh. And Vela Glamorgan.
Agree, Chair.
And Torvine, happy to support. Can you hear us, Marianne?
Yeah, apologies,
Oh,
Chair.
right.
I was called away to an urgent phone call. Yes,
problem.
happy to agree.
Thanks, Marianne. Right, that's carried with 10 votes, I believe. Is that okay? Right, all good. Thank you very much, colleagues. That brings us on to agenda item 5, which is the South East Wales CJC 24-25 Treasury Management Strategy. Kelly, you're going to start on this one?
Yep, thank you very much, Chair. Now that the CJC is a body corporate that's been fully adopted and endorsed, has a constitution today, we have to have our own Treasury management statement. And I'm very happy to hand over to my colleague, Ajinder Singh, who's going to present that to the CJC this morning. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Ajinder.
Thank you, Chair. As members have heard, successful novation of the City Deal funding agreement will result in a sizable cash balance being transferred from the accountable body to the CJC on the 1st of April. The practical and regulatory implications of this have been discussed with members as part of the working group sessions we had back in January. So this report pulls those requirements together and can be summarised in three parts. Part 1, the first part of the report sets out the regulatory requirements which the CJC is required to put in place to receive and manage public funds. For example, recommendation 1 of this report asks members to formally adopt CIPFA's Treasury Management in Public Services Code of Practice and to ensure that all Treasury management decisions are taken in line with the code. Paragraph 20 on page 4 sets out a range of supplementary documents that also need to be put in place to ensure the CJC has regard to the potential code when carrying out its duties under Part 1 of the Local Government Act 2003, and also CIPFA's Prudential Code for Capital Finance as it applies to local authorities. As I say, these documents are described in paragraph 20 and fully set out in appendices 2 to 5. The second part of the report sets out the practical arrangements which the CJC has put in place to receive and manage its cash balances, and there are 4 strands to the practical arrangements. Firstly, the CJC has developed a detailed cash flow forecasting model to allow it to determine its day-to-day cash flow requirements and to make decisions around the investment of surplus cash over the short to medium term. Discussions with the accountable body suggest that a cash balance in the order of £62 million will be transferred to the CJC on the 1st of April. The majority of this sum will be managed under the pooling arrangement agreed with RCT's Treasury Management team and in line with their Treasury Management strategy, which complements the CJC's own strategy. This sets out that cash can only be invested in UK Government's Debt Management Office or other government-backed public bodies and is considered to be a very low Treasury Management strategy. The strategy puts security of cash firmly at the forefront of the strategy, followed by liquidity and yield, and is currently generating a yield of over 5%, achieving an appropriate balance between risk and return. The CJC will retain an appropriate level of cash float to meet its day-to-day expenditure, and this will be managed via its principal bank account with Barclays. The Barclays account will be supplemented with the use of public sector deposit fund. This is a money market fund as advised by the CJC's Treasury Management advisors, Arlene Close. Money market funds are extremely secure. Most of these funds are AAA rated, low volatility, net asset funds. Extremely liquid, with cash being returned within 24 hours notice. The third part of the report sets out the CJC's proposed governance and oversight arrangements, and there's 3 strands to this. Firstly, members of the CJC will be provided with regular Treasury Management update reports. These will be quarterly reports setting out the performance against the CJC's Treasury Management Strategy, with further reporting requirements set out at the start of the year, at the midpoint year, and also as part of the final outturn. In addition, the Governance and Audit Subcommittee will be responsible for oversight of the CJC's Treasury Management arrangements, and review of the strategy will feature as part of their inaugural work plan for 24-25. Arlene Close have been appointed as Treasury Management advisors, who will be familiar to most local authorities, and details of their engagement and the extensive range of support services are set out in paragraph 21. So, Chair, happy to take any further questions before we move to the recommendations on paragraph 39 on page 9.
Thanks, Jacinda. Members, any questions? All seems sound in line with our principles to me. Are we happy to move then to paragraph 39 in the recommendations? There's 5 of them there. Can I have a mover and a seconder?
Move on, Chair.
Thanks. That Steve Thomas has moved and Hugh Thomas has seconded. So I'll move to the vote then. So if I take Julian first.
Agree, Chair.
Thanks. Monmouthshire.
Agreed.
Thanks. Blind Gwent.
Agree, Chair.
Newport.
Agreed, Chair.
Thanks. RCT. Oh, I have to come back. If I go to the room then, Caerphilly.
Agreed, Chair.
It's Merthyr.
Agreed, Chair.
It's Cardiff.
Agree.
Vale Morgan.
Agreed, Chair.
Torvine is agreed. Maureen, can you hear us okay? Okay, I think we've lost Maureen there. So that's 9 votes carried on that one, I believe. So we move on then to item 6, which is the pay policy report. This report is to approve the pay policy statement for 24-25 in accordance with the requirements of the Localism Act 2011. So if I hand over to the Chief Executive to introduce the report.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. So this report sets out the annual pay policy and the pay policy statement for 24-25, and of course comes to you as a requirement under Section 38 of the Localism Act 2011. So it's necessary for us to publish details of all factors, including recruitment and pay, to make sure that we can demonstrate openness and probity around all of these matters. So you'll see attached to the report is the full pay policy statement. I don't propose to take members through it this morning. And that's really because up until a few weeks ago, the CJC chair didn't have any employees. It's only been myself for the last couple of weeks. So that's very hard to base a pay policy on. But of course, going forward, the CJC board approved on the 4th of December a new structure for the senior executive team. You can see that that is set out in paragraph 16 of the report. And then in paragraph 33, you've got the commensurate grades for those posts also established. I did want to refer members' attention, if it's okay, to both paragraphs 43 and 63 of the report that talk to pay differentials and, of course, importantly, the gender pay gap. As I was saying, it's very difficult to do those assessments at the moment because the CJC hasn't had any employees. We're about to recruit to the new structure and, of course, 2P transfer staff across. So that piece of work, I'm not going to say we'll wait till next year because I don't think we need to. Hopefully you'll derive some comfort from the next report that is on the agenda, which is around the public sector equality duty. So we'll have this, I think, as a key item that we'll continue to monitor. And as soon as we've arrived at a position, we can make sure that that is translated back to the CJC for further deliberation and discussion. But of course, the importance that we attach to that public sector equality duty beyond pay differentials hopefully will be drawn out in the next item. So on that basis, Chair, and with that caveat that we will come back with an assessment once we've enacted 2P and we've got the new structure in place, I commend this report to you and the recommendations, which are at paragraph 16 of the report.
Thanks, Kelly. That's welcome. Any questions on this then? If not, are we happy to approve the pay policy as the recommendations at paragraph 15 say? Can I have a mover and a seconder for those? Yes, Liz Burnett has moved. And
Happy to second, Chair.
Mary Ann Brocklesby is seconded. So I'll take a vote then. So Julian, do you want to come in first?
Agree, Chair.
Thanks, Julian. Monmouthshire.
Agreed, Chair.
Thanks, Bryony Gwent.
Agreed, Chair.
Thanks, Newport.
Agreed, Chair.
Thanks, RCT.
Agreed, Chair.
Thanks, Maureen. Caerphilly.
Agree, Chair.
Thanks, Cardiff.
Great.
Thanks, Merthyr.
Agree, Chair.
Vale Morgan.
Agreed, Chair.
And Torvines agreed, so that item is carried with 10 votes. I then move people on to item 7, which is the Strategic Equality Plan, Biodiversity Compliance Plan and Child Poverty Strategy outline. The purpose of this report is to seek comment and, if appropriate, approve the finalised Strategic Equality Plan, Biodiversity Compliance Plan, and to provide an update on the development of CCR's Child Poverty Strategy. If I hand over to Kelly to introduce this.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Very pleased again to present this report today. As a statutory body, there's a number of corporate requirements that we have to comply with and show that we are fulfilling. But beyond compliance, I think particularly in relation to the public sector equality duty, there's a real opportunity here to enhance our work, particularly in the investment space. And very pleased now to hand over to my colleague Colin Mahaffey, who'll present the report, outline the strategic equality plan, approve the work that we've done today around biodiversity compliance, and outline the next steps in regards to meeting the requirements around child poverty.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it. So for background, we'll start with, I'll go through at a headline level each of the areas. So if you refer to paragraph 3, this is the strategic equality plan. So as a newly formed public body, this is our first strategic equality plan. It builds on the foundations of the city deal. So therefore, we're working with very strong foundations and our ongoing commitment to a fair, inclusive and greener economy. The plan covers the period 2024 to 28, but given that this is our first plan, really as a new form of regional governance, and that's happened in conversations with the other regions in Wales, there's an expectation that the plan will be iterated as the CJC matures, both in operation and in delivery. So consultations taking place over a number of months with a number of internal and external stakeholders, and we include the Equality and Human Rights Commission, and also members, obviously, and we've refined an iterated plan to this stage. We will conduct a review by December 2024. As Kelly mentioned, for example, with the gender pay gap, we'll have first analysis and we'll be able to conduct some of those early pieces of work to help inform how we can iterate the plan to make sure the objectives are fit for purpose, to allow for some adjustment where required in terms of delivery, and also incorporate our wider activities as a CJC. So for context, this does respond specifically to the statutory powers and associated duties of a CJC, i.e. economic well-being, spatial planning and regional transport planning. It also obviously has to align with relevant strategies, plans and appropriate legislation. I won't go into detail on this, but we have 4 objectives in the plan that are regional. This has been agreed with the HRC. These outline what we intend to do for the citizens of Cardiff Capital Region to engender positive change. And as a new public body, we also have 3 further objectives that are organisational, so making our commitment as a new public body to equality. As a final point on this, data collection will be a key aspect. We're looking to continually monitor and evaluate, obviously to report on an annual basis. Again, that will be at a regional level. We have work undergoing with Cardiff University and others in that regard. And at intervention level, as we talked about the midterm report, as it speaks to the city deal, will enhance some of the reporting around that. With that, I'll move to the biodiversity compliance plan that's set out in paragraph 13 onwards. So again, this is our first biodiversity compliance plan. It builds on the activities undertaken to date by the CCR city deal. We've been very upfront about our commitment to net zero, for example, in our regional economic and industrial plan. So as part of this, under the biodiversity and resilience of ecosystems duty, public authorities must seek to maintain and enhance biodiversity. And we've embedded this at an early stage of our work as a new public body. It also aligns with the 6 objectives outlined in the Nature Recovery Action Plan for Wales, and it's proportionate given the scope of our activity and our relative maturity as an organisation. Finally, in terms of the child poverty strategy approach, so the summary paper that we have sets out how we will work to publish a full child poverty strategy alongside refreshed wellbeing objectives and a wider plan, and that's estimated for October 2024. That will allow us to develop this approach, to develop some of the organisational capacity and to move towards our current working towards a framework for addressing child poverty, which was published in March 2023. The recommendations at paragraph 34, so it's recommended that the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee approve the Strategic Equality Plan, approve the Biodiversity Compliance Plan and the outline timeline and next steps in regards to the development of the child poverty strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Any questions or comments on this? Go on, come in.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how this progresses, because child poverty is massive in certain parts of our region more than in other parts. I'd like to see how it aligns then to the PSBs, the various different PSBs, and how it all fits together. Because if we can take the lead on it as the CJC, then our plan then gets disseminated down to the other PSBs and to the local authorities. So I hope we'll take the lead on this. That's important.
I agree, both on strategic equality, biodiversity and child poverty. There's a job of leadership for us to do on all three of those as the CJC develops. Colin, do you want to come back in there?
Yeah, just to say we've already started to establish those meetings and those links. It's very much the start of the journey. From the 1st of April onwards, this is a capacity and a competency that we're building. And we've started working with our colleagues across the local authorities who've been invaluable up until this point.
Any other questions? Are we happy then to move to the recommendations as outlined by Colin? Could I have a mover and a seconder if possible, please? Geraint Murtha removed and Sean Caffilli second. I'll take the vote then. Brecon Beacons National Park.
Support, Chair.
Thanks, Julian. Monmouthshire.
Agreed, Chair.
Thanks, Marianne. Brian Gwent.
Agreed, Chair.
Steve. Newport.
Agreed, Chair.
Thanks, Jane. RCT.
Agreed, Chair.
Thanks, Maureen. Caffilli.
Agreed, Chair.
Thanks, Sean. Merthyr.
Agreed, Chair.
Thanks, Geraint. Cardiff.
Great.
Thanks to you. Available Morgan. Agreed, Chair. Thanks, Liz. And Torvine is agreed. So that's carried with 10 votes. And I believe that brings today's meeting to a close. Thank you to everyone who's participated or watched on the webcast. The next meeting of the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee is at 9:30 on 3rd of June 2024. Take care all.